Talk Packers on a Victory Monday. I am joined by Niz, the weatherman.
Yeah.
Hey, great weather. Saturday and Sunday, not as bad as we thought it was going to be, right?
Yeah, totally. Weather was good. Noticed a little bit of light shower activity at Lambeau yesterday evening, but it really didn't seem to affect play, right?
No, not at all. I actually wasn't even sure if it was sprinkling or not, because we were watching the game and all of a sudden they flashed to that view of the headlights on the top of the stadium, and I was like, wait a second, is that a sprinkle? Or am I dreaming it?
Right.
But no, it was beautiful. Night started off great. Packers won. Really couldn't ask for anything more. So what I'm going to start with is obviously thank goodness, because after week 1, I think we were all ready to fall to our knees and start praying to the football gods that the season was going to be all right. So first impressions, the Packers, they definitely made that transition from week 1 to week 2 as far as the offense. The defense came a little slow out of the gate again, but hey, those are scripted plays. You know, that's the easiest time to catch people off guard is when you're starting the game in the first couple of minutes. So not too worried about that. But Brian, for you, I know you've watched a heck of a lot more Packer games than I have growing up here in Wisconsin. For you as a fan, was this expected, or were you kind of still wiping the sweat off your forehead like, okay, thank God this is happening?
That's an awesome point. And yes, as a fan's perspective, Packers fans' perspective, I hate to say this, but we're starting to, I mean, as a fan, take the Bears lightly, right? You know, as a team, how do they get up for these games after, you know, owning the series over the past, you know, going back to Favre days. So again, it's, as a fan, I don't want to say I'm getting too confident, but every Packers Bears game, I'm feeling pretty good. I almost felt like this is what the doctor ordered, right?
Exactly. And I want to say too, you know, even for me, watching that week 1 and being surprised with how, you know, just out of whack the Packers were from what I'm used to watching. And again, I think that had to do with, you know, everybody saying the cohesiveness. This is really the first year under Matt LaFleur where that cohesiveness hasn't been there as far as your regular guys in and out. You know, no Devontae, no MVS. You didn't have Alan Lazard. You didn't have Jenkins. You didn't have Bach. So but it was still a little out of whack. So coming into week 2, I was definitely sweating probably a little more than other people were. And especially seeing the Bears play in those conditions against the 49ers and winning in week 1. I don't want to say I bought into that too much, but I was thinking, you know, the Bears defense, that's what we've always talked about. If we've talked about anything with the Bears, it's been the defense. So that worried me just because the offense is what the offense is right now. Now, obviously, today I'm like, okay, we're back in business. But I think that had to do with a little more, obviously, Aaron Jones, a little more A.J. Dillon. Yep. I am here for the Sammy Watkins. Hey, if people want to keep riding Watkins off and, you know, letting him run up that field and nobody being on him, being wide open, hey, let's keep passing the ball to him. How did you feel watching the offense? And were you kind of saying, okay, this is how it should have been week 1? Because I think we were all kind of saying that. More Jones, more Dillon.
Yeah, I think for my perspective, like, and I know a lot of fans, it's going to take some getting used to. I think they do have, like you mentioned, Watkins, Lazard. They're going to have some pieces for wide receivers that they can throw to. But I don't think we're going to ever have that team or receiving core, you know, that was, you know, stocked, you know, with 5 top receivers. You're kind of seeing, I think, a transition of, you know, the way the offense runs with both running backs in there at the same time. That surprised me to see both of them at the same time. And maybe that's a lot more of things to come. But I was happy to see it. I think by the end of the year, again, you're more of an expert on this than I am, but I think by the end of the year, we are going to realize that the Bears defense is legit. I think they're good. Now their offense might be the ones not keeping them in the games, but I think their defense, just like many years, is going to be solid. So I think we got to be happy with the amount of points we put up and the success we had.
And to talk about our defense a little bit, because I think we were I know there were times where I was like, hold on, where did the defense go? Did we put some different guys in the game just with the same jersey numbers on? Because it looked a little out of whack. And that was the thing, us coming into this season, that everybody was talking about in training camp, in OTAs, was how good the defense was. But I think we realized that even as shaky as the defense might seem at times, they're always going to bring it back. It was a 27-10 victory, but I think we can, I think there's no harm in saying it probably should have been 27-17, but they had that amazing stop at the goal line. They rallied back when A.J. Dillon had that one fumble. That made me a little bit nervous because those running backs, we just count on them so much. And I think even as somebody who watches as someone who's supposed to be critiquing and criticizing constantly, I've even gotten used to the fact that if the ball goes in Aaron Jones or A.J. Dillon's hand, I expect it to be something positive. Never expect it to be negative. So when we saw that fumble, that made me a little bit shaky. When we saw the miscommunication between the snap and Christian Watson was running past Rodgers and it hit on him.
Did you hear anything if that was? Oh no, what was the? Sorry to interrupt. The handoff with A.J. Dillon and no, was it?
Watson was running, but there was a handoff between A.J. Dillon too.
Yeah, was that one on Rodgers, or did you hear anything on that?
Well, it's hard to say, and of course nobody's going to point fingers at either one. Rodgers had nothing but praise for both of those guys last night. But I think if you watch the replay, I think what happened is the way the snap came, Rodgers tried to get out of the way, and because he tried to get out of the way, it maybe confused Dillon a little bit when he was coming back. Like, whoa, did I hear the wrong call? So I think that's what happened. But the one where Christian Watson I think he just ran a little too late, or maybe even a little too fast, and maybe the snap was off as far as the count and the timing. But that's the stuff that Rodgers was talking about week one, stuff like that, and then stuff where there was on either the first or second drive, there was a play where Romeo Doubs didn't turn his head fast enough, and Rodgers kind of pinged him with the ball.
Yes, it's
stuff like that Rodgers was talking about in week one that needed to change, and you needed to see that step in week two. And even though we still saw a little bit of those mess ups, I think overall it was better. And something I saw, which again, I'm not Matt LaFleur. I don't know his, the inside of his minds or the inside of the thinking. I'm not an NFL coach, so I don't know what it means to be in that situation. But I think week one, the game plan was to try and get those rookie receivers as much reps as possible, not really thinking about a win or a loss overall. And I think week two, it was pretty obvious to me that the game plan was like, okay, this is our home opener. We need a win. We're going to put winning first and getting those guys reps second. Worry about working those guys in second. And that's what they did when they started to run the ball with Jones and Dillon. Like, that is taking care of business first. And then when they had a couple of drives where they tried to throw the ball 3 times in a row. They went 3 and out. Okay, that's going to happen. But then the next drive, they're like, we need to score. So I was happy with that. And I get it. Like, look, you're not gonna turn Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. You're not going to turn those guys into Devontae Adams overnight. I understand that. But I think in the situation that they are right now, especially with such young receiving core, only having Cobb, only having Watkins as far as vets, I think they kind of just need to put winning first, which I'm sure fans are going, well, they do that anyway. But you still, in the situation that they're in, you have to nurture that talent. Matt LaFleur even mentioned it himself. He's like, hey, we got to tell these guys and show these guys that we have confidence in them, and that's what it was. Aaron Rodgers throwing a 70-yard bomb to Watson, and then Watson dropped. But that's what that was trying to do, is saying, hey, you guys got it. We're confident in you that you can make those plays. So I get it. You got to nurture the young guys. You got to do what you can. But right now, in these first couple of weeks, can we just get the job done?
Yeah.
Can we just put those W's on the board?
Yeah, I agree. I think, as seeing so many high-powered offenses, I've trimmed my with the Packers. I've trimmed the passing game expectations down a little bit. I think rightfully so, because your two of your most biggest weapons are your running backs.
Yeah.
And like, I know it's going to be different for fans, including myself, but to like grind out those 4-yard runs, 5-yard runs, slowing the game down a little bit. When you have a defense that the Packers have, or hopefully we think they have, and that running game, we may have a lot more lower scoring games than we're used to, possibly. But also at the flip side, that could really open things up, like you mentioned, like Watkins racing down the sideline, eventually some younger guys. Pressure's going to be off on those dudes. So, like, I'm excited to see it. From I think what we saw, what was it? Was it last year or 2 years ago with AJ Dillon? I think we're going to start to see him shine a little bit more when the weather gets rougher.
Oh yeah.
I think you're going to see the ratio of the handoffs maybe swing a little bit more in his favor when the weather gets rough. So while conditions are great, let's get AJ, not AJ, Aaron Jones, the rock, and when it's messy, give it to AJ, and we'll see what we have.
Hey, and I think you're absolutely right on that. And I think, too, that just has to do with, I think people forget that AJ is a little bit younger than Jones. So I think that's what it is. And trust me, again, it feels like Jones has been doing this for a decade now, just because of the success that he's had and the impact that he's had. And he's been doing it since a rookie. So I think that's just the natural wear and tear. But I agree with you that I think Aaron Jones is a little more shinier on the armor than Aaron Jones is, just because he's had that battle in him and he's been doing it for a couple of more years. But that's going to be fun to see. And I think overall, I hate to say it, but I was a little worried. I hope Watkins, I'm going up there on Wednesday. I might ask him. I hope he was just wearing the long sleeve because that's what he's used to. I hope he wasn't wearing the long sleeve because he thought it was a little chilly, because that's going to be a problem. Because seriously, as far as the receivers, only really Cobb knows what that feels like. Cobb is the only one. If you really start to narrow it down, Lazard knows a little bit of it. But as far as week in and week out and practicing in it, Cobb's the only one who knows what that feels like, to go in the frozen tundra and try and catch a football that probably feels like it's a little rock that they're throwing at you. So that's going to be fun to see and that's all on you, Brian. I'm not going to tell people when it's going to start snowing. I hope it never does. Unless it's Sunday night and we need it for a tactical, strategical advantage.
Either way,
then I'm fine with it.
It's going to happen at some point. Hopefully we ease into it. I was just talking with Tom Durian this morning about, I think it was 2 Halloweens ago, where we had snow.
Yep.
It wasn't just a little bit of snow. Let's hope that holds off a little bit longer. I do think now the Packers are away this week, so they're obviously going to be hot in Tampa. But our weather starts to change too, starting late week, Thursday and Friday. Looks like we start to slip into more of an autumn trend, but like easing into it. I'm talking like 60s and 70s. Okay. Which we get that for 4 or 5 weeks. That'd be awesome before we start to get that true, really cold weather. But hey, maybe that's our advantage too, that cold stuff. And
did you happen to watch the Tampa game on Sunday?
Oh, I had it on in the garage as I was doing cleaning. But that was, what was it, 0-0 forever and like 3-0 or something? Right?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you what. Usually when Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers get together, I'm thinking it's going to be a knockout dragout.
Right. Yeah.
And I hate to say this, and my husband is probably going to kill me if he watches this back, because he loves Tom Brady. But I'm thinking maybe he just should have stayed retired. It does not look like the same Tom Brady. And that is no knock on what he's done, what he has accomplished. He very much is a GOAT. He's got those Super Bowl rings. But I think now he's kind of in the same situation as Rodgers, as far as not really having all of those weapons, the line kind of being shaky in Tampa. And he's getting hit a lot more. He's having a lot more incompletions. He's missing a lot more things. And the difference is that age. The difference is that he's been doing it a little longer, and maybe he should have just hung it up while it was good, because it's looking rough. He's taking a veterans rest day now. I think that says a lot. I do.
Delaney, I admire you going out there and actually saying that, right? I mean, there aren't so many people who won't even touch that topic with some who consider GOAT. But I agree. It didn't look good.
Nope. So, hey, I'm hoping that Rodgers goes in there and they're feeling the sunshine. Can you hear me, Brian? We're breaking up again. See, this is why I came home.
We're losing it a little.
All right, well, we're breaking up again. The Wi-Fi is giving us a hard time, so we're gonna wrap it up. Brian, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you because we need those weather reports to keep coming. And by the way, I'm going to go on a cruise next week. So I'm going to come ask you about how the weather is going to be there. So thanks, guys. Thanks, guys, so much.